Thank you for watching or listening to this free podcast of the Young Turks. We want to make sure that you get some portion of the show every day, but if you want the full show, which is actually 5 segments, come become a member and support independent media as well. tytnetwork.com/join. Meanwhile, enjoy the free podcast. All right, back on the Young Turks. I love when I do that on a Monday. Well, we are back from the holidays, and happy holidays to you guys. Dare I say Merry Christmas. Well, that's going to be our first topic in a little bit. We do have the usual madness from Donald Trump. We're going to get into that in a little bit. And then the Democrats consider impeachment, but so far have decided against it. There could be good reasons for that. They have a particularly bad reason, which I'll share with you a little bit later in the program. And then, unfortunately, a 6-year-old gets shot by cops a couple of days before Christmas. So usual range of stories from happy to sad, of course. And then I want to show you a chart of income inequality in America that I think is incredibly telling. I don't want you to miss that. Because it gives you a sense of exactly how they redistributed income. And I got news for you. It wasn't trickling down to you, okay? But you got to see those charts to fully understand and hopefully share it with your friends too. All right, speaking of sharing with the friends, it's not over yet. So we still have the gift program, tytnetwork.com/gift. Gets you 3 months of membership for $25. All right, I got more on that later, but let's start the show. Okay. Well, Donald Trump is a megalomaniac and believes that he should get credit for things as trivial as the word fake. He literally said in an interview once that he invented the word fake. He said it might have been around before, but I'm the one who made it popular. Okay, now he's taking credit for Christmas. So he launched a number of tweets, all with big bold letters, including this one, saying, Merry Christmas. First of all, God bless. That's fantastic. Bless your heart. You do 17 of those. So far, so good. That's fine. You know that this is going to turn into the war on Christmas spiel, right? That O'Reilly started, Fox News started, and of course Trump is jumping in on. That's why he's emphasizing this stuff. But that's all right. Let's go to the video of him talking around Christmas as well.
I just wanted to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas.
Very, very, Merry Christmas. Okay, we got it. How about one more?
We say Christmas again very proudly. Very, very Merry Christmas.
Very, very, very Merry Christmas to all of you as well. And we say it proudly, whereas before we hung our head in shame as we said Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I don't remember that. No one remembers that in America, but he's not done yet. He goes on to say in a tweet, people are proud to be saying Merry Christmas again. I am proud to have led the charge against the assault of our cherished and beautiful phrase, Merry Christmas. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so exclamation points. I don't have my glasses on. Okay, I think he makes a good point here, and I'm calling for the release of all the POWs from the war on Christmas. All the people who not only were imprisoned by Obama for saying Merry Christmas, but also those missing in action. Those who said Merry Holidays as a halfway point, or perhaps Happy Christmas. Where are they? Can we free them as well? Now, if you believe there was an actual war on Christmas, you verge on being a lunatic. People kept saying Merry Christmas throughout. No one made it illegal to say Merry Christmas. No one even thought it was a bad thing to say Merry Christmas. No progressive actually said that. Fox News made it up completely. Now, the conservative stance of forcing people to say Merry Christmas, first of all, doesn't seem very merry. That doesn't seem like it fits the holiday spirit. Second of all, if you are not Christian, and for example, if you're Jewish and they keep forcing you to say Merry Christmas, well, okay, then that could become problematic. I think a lot of people said it anyway because people aren't really that offended by it. But nonetheless, it takes on a different ring if all of a sudden you go from like, hey, it would be nice if people say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, we're all happy, no big deal, who cares, to, wait a minute, you must say Merry Christmas. Well, that's bizarre, and it's also political correctness. In fact, it's political correctness 101. You are not allowed to say the things that you would normally say. You must say the things that are now politically correct, like Merry Christmas. Well, one thing we know, though, from Trump's campaign is that the last 8 years, Christmas has been banned. So it's kind of weird that the Obamas also put out this tweet, and it says, on behalf of the Obama family, Merry Christmas. Wait a minute. What is going on? Has he turned sides? Now he's saying Merry Christmas. He says, and we wish you joy and peace this holiday season. I wonder what he means by that. Okay. One thing that'll drive Trump crazy is Obama's tweet saying Merry Christmas got at least 7 times as much attention and likes, etc., as did Donald Trump's. So that'll get under his skin, and that's fun. If you're wondering if this is a new turn for Obama, oh my God, he's finally saying Merry Christmas because of Donald Trump. Well, one, if you think that, you haven't been paying any attention. 2, of course, it's not remotely true. I want to give credit here to Daniel Redmond, who on Twitter put out a compilation video of previous things that President Obama said while he was in office. Let's listen.
Have a very Merry Christmas.
We want to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
A very, very Merry Christmas and a holiday filled with joy. I want to wish every American a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
So Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Apparently credit to MSNBC as well. That was awesome. So if you thought Obama didn't say Merry Christmas, you are not only wrong, but you've been duped as usual. There's never been a war on Christmas. It is completely invented. And anyone who says that is really kind of pathetic. Now, there's one person who's also apparent, if it exists, is apparently also part of this war. And this one hits a little close to home. Oh my God, A2 Ivanka. That's right, December 11, 2017, and it says Happy Holidays. Oh, we knew Ivanka couldn't be trusted. Or perhaps it's because she converted to Judaism, and hence Happy Holidays makes sense. Is he going to force his own daughter and his son-in-law and his grandkids, is he going to come over and say Christmas, okay? I don't care what religion you're in. Insane. But there's one guy we know who's always been on the right side because he tells it like it is. It's Donald Trump. So let's go to a tweet from Donald Trump from 2010. Wishing everyone a very happy holiday season. Oh no, Donald, not you too. I'm glad to see that Donald Trump has also escaped from the war on Christmas. Apparently he was a hostage on the other side and is now on the right side of issues. Or perhaps this is all a load of horse crap and meant to divide us at a time where we're supposed to have holiday cheer and show kindness to one another.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Okay. Now, let's go on to more Donald Trump news. This is a doozy. Okay. For a long time, Donald Trump promised that the tax cuts they were going to do was going to be for the middle class, not for the rich. No, of course not. In fact, he had told CBS News, the rich will not be gaining at all with this plan. We are looking for the middle class, and we are looking for jobs. Jobs being the economy, okay? So now he actually said that's someone else. CBS News is reporting it right now, but that was back in the fall, and that's a quote that a lot of people have shared, obviously. And he was bragging about this is not for the rich. They will not be gaining at all. You just saw it in the quote. Okay, so CBS News now with a new report saying President Trump kicked off his holiday weekend at Mar-a-Lago Friday night at a dinner where he told friends, quote, "You all just got a lot richer," referencing the sweeping tax overhaul he signed into law hours earlier. What happened? I thought the rich weren't going to be gaining at all. That, by the way, that is reported by people who were attending that dinner at Mar-a-Lago. So, no, Donald Trump's a liar and the tax cuts were always for the rich? Color me surprised. Yes, in fact, behind closed doors, as soon as he gets to his private properties that cost a tremendous amount of money to be a member of, he tells his rich friends, don't worry, I delivered for you. In fact, to give more context on that, CBS News said the president has spent many weekends of his presidency so far at the quote-unquote winter White House, as he calls it, where initiation fees cost $200,000, annual dues cost $14,000, and some of the most affluent members of society have the opportunity to interact with the president in a setting while many Americans cannot. So there's no excuse that, well, I went to Mar-a-Lago and talked to the middle class. Do a lot of people in the middle class have $200,000 to throw away so they could have fancy dinners with their other rich friends, let alone the $14,000 a year on top of that, let alone all the things that cost money inside that club, which I'm sure is outrageously expensive? No, his real friends are the rich, and he just delivered for them, and he couldn't help himself because he's Donald Trump. So he bragged to them, hey guys, how did I do? I got you all the money. I took it from the middle class and I gave it to you. Did I do a good job? And remember when I lied to them and I said I'd be doing it for them? Wasn't that funny? By the year 2027, according to this law, 53% of Americans will be paying more in taxes, not less. Let alone the damage to the economy, let alone the redistribution of wealth overall, let alone the cuts that'll have to come against Social Security and Medicare, which now the Republicans and Paul Ryan are bragging about. Cuts are coming next. Put all that aside. You're going to be paying higher taxes by 2027. Why? Because the rich needed more taxes on top. By the way, that 53% is not the rich. It's coming from the poor and the middle class. Your taxes are going to get raised. Where is the money going? Well, let's take a look. According to Tax Policy Center, which is nonpartisan, 82.8% of the bill's benefit would go to the top 1%. So when he goes to Mar-a-Lago and shouts from the rooftops that his rich friends can celebrate Christmas because he just got them a huge tax cut, he's right. 83% of the money from that tax cut is going to go to the top 1% who doesn't need it at all. And it's also going to go to corporations, which is going to funnel it to their executives, who are almost all also in the top 1%. And they pretended that it was for you. What a sad, sad joke. It's the greatest robbery in American history. And Trump is almost literally laughing all the way to the bank, at least laughing all the way to Mar-a-Lago. Okay, that's the state of affairs in America today. Okay, so that's the tax bill. I've got more time, so let me keep going. I'll go on to impeachment for you guys. I got the story here. Here we go. So now let's switch to the Democrats. Okay. Now, there is a wide range of opinions on whether Democrats should pursue impeachment against Donald Trump. And I think it is an interesting question. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, even at this late date. There are 58 Democrats who have signed on for impeachment. There are other Democrats who think 25th Amendment's the right way to go. Leadership right now doesn't believe that any of those paths should be pursued. Now, I think that there are legitimate reasons to think that, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But as I read an article in Politico talking about why the Democrats are doing this, or in this case, not doing this, well, there was something in there that was the usual Democratic stuff that drives me crazy. So Jerry Nadler is very important to the Democrats in this regard because he's a top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. If the Democrats were to retake the House, which now actually looks pretty much likely, even Chris Wallace on Fox News talking about how 40 seats are likely to swing in favor of the Democrats. Well, then Jerry Nadler would be the head of the committee that would pursue impeachment if they were to go in that direction. So let's look at his quotes and let's begin to analyze this. He said, impeachment, it's not something you ought to welcome. It's not something you ought to be ready to. It's not something you want. Okay. Now, look, that's a fair starting point. It's totally fine. You shouldn't look forward to impeachment with glee. I mean, it depends on the facts. It depends on the situation. And you can't impeach someone because of horrible policies. I think Trump has horrible policies, but sad day for us, he won the election. That's how elections go, so go out and vote. I think he's unstable. That could be a 25th Amendment issue. But in order to do impeachment, you have to actually have something that he's done against the law. There's an argument to be made that you could do impeachment for other reasons, but it's not an argument that's likely to win. So, Robert Mueller certainly might find something on him, and I think he will. That's my personal opinion, and I think that at that point, impeachment certainly will be worth pursuing, if that's the case. Some people make an argument about conflicts of interest and the emoluments clause, and I think those are interesting arguments. But now let's go into why the Democrats have decided not to pursue this. Politico explains that, in fact, Nadler's expertise in constitutional law, as well as his outsized voice opposing the Clinton impeachment in 1998, was a factor in his selection to lead committee Democrats. Now, if they put a guy who was that gung-ho against impeachment of Clinton, that is a signal that they are saying, no, we are not going to go towards impeachment. If they thought at a later date that they might go in that direction, they would have put somebody in there that does not have as rich a record against impeachment as Nadler does. Warning sign number one. Okay, Nadler continues and says, if we were in the majority and if we decide that the evidence isn't there for impeachment, or if the evidence is there, we decide it would tear the country apart too much, there's no buy-in, there's no bipartisanship, and we shouldn't do it for whatever reason. If we decide that, then it's our duty to educate the country why we decided it. Oh boy. If he left it at the first half of the sentence and said, hey, if there isn't the evidence there, well, then we can't do it. It's a perfectly fair sentence to say. And a lot of Democrats might disagree. 3/4 of Democratic voters now want impeachment. But it's one thing to want impeachment. It's another thing to be able to prove it, execute it, et cetera, and to actually get him out of office. But the second half of the sentence where it says, even if there is evidence, we shouldn't do it because it might, quote unquote, tear the country apart. Oh, God, these Democrats. So the guy who could lead impeachment, if there is evidence to suggest that he should be impeached, is, as usual, doing a preemptive surrender on the issue, saying even if there is evidence that he will not pursue it because the Republicans would object. Yes, some of the deplorables that support Donald Trump and the alt-right, I'm sure, and Roger Stone and all those monsters would go, oh my God, you can't do this. So you're going to get bullied by them and you're going to preemptively say that you won't do it? Even if there is evidence. Oh, God damn. Okay, now that you go to Jared Huffman, now he supports impeachment, but even he says, this is a congressman from California, he says, as someone who favors impeachment, I feel strongly it needs to be bipartisan. I think that's one of the things Republicans got wrong in 98, that the bipartisan piece of it is assurance to the public that you're not just playing partisan games. We're a long way from Republicans joining us. Now, mixed bag there. So if you want to get him out of office completely, you need 2/3 of the Senate. So by definition, it has to be bipartisan. If you leave it at that, nothing wrong with that quote. But number one, he's going back to 98 because this is the hack stuff that a lot of Democrats and a lot of people, unfortunately, in the mainstream media believe. All politics is local. Who said that? Tip O'Neill. I know that. That's why I seem like a sage political pundit. Yeah, that Tip O'Neill said that back when there was no internet. All politics is not local anymore. All the local newspapers have been wiped out. All politics is on the internet now. So, and to some degree for old people on TV. So that's just not true. So, oh yeah, back in 98 might as well have been 1898 or 1798. So trying to learn lessons that are so outdated is not particularly clever. They always think like, oh, did you know that in 98 the Republicans became unpopular when they tried an impeachment based on ridiculous grounds? Yeah, of course we all know that. But it was on ridiculous grounds. And in fact, back then I was a Republican and I thought that what Bill Clinton had done was wrong. But when they pursued impeachment, that was one of the first times that I was like, whoa, that's weird. That seems like a bridge too far. And they swung a lot of people to the other side. But that is not this situation. They're not analogous. They're from a long time ago. And it tells the other side, by the way, we think our case might be as ridiculous as your case was. No. If Mueller's got them and they have the evidence, there's a perfectly sound case to pursue. But don't surrender ahead of time. Okay, but we need the Republicans to join us. If you're gonna premise your entire strategy on Republicans agreeing to do the right thing, just clean up and go home already. Unless they're on the very precipice of losing their own seat, the Republicans will, of their own accord, almost never do the right thing. Like, what are you looking for, moral fiber? You've come to the wrong place. So here's more from Politico. The debate is roiling House Democrats, with progressives forcing a debate over the issue even as vulnerable incumbents, particularly members in districts that favor Trump, worry it could jeopardize their future in Congress. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the answer right there. And this is what Democratic leadership does all the time. So it is not all Democrats. 58 Democrats have already signed on for the impeachment issue. Jamie Raskin doing a wonderful job with the 25th Amendment issue. I think that's actually more fruitful, okay? But when it comes to leadership, oh no, we have to protect the most conservative Democrats. So we will not fight forward. We will not support progressives. Instead, what we will do is try to make sure that the people in the most purple districts are the ones that rule our entire strategy. Now, look, we know politics. I don't want to lose those purple seats. Nobody wants to lose those purple seats. But right now, Donald Trump is polling at 32%. That's not in jeopardy. So when you pretend that it's in as much jeopardy as it has ever been, you're doing that to excuse inaction. And second of all, when you consistently program your entire party around the most conservative Democrats, you get to another bigger problem, which you never acknowledge, which is that you don't make the progressive case and you don't fight for the progressive case. Why? Oh, no, I don't want to endanger the blue dog Democrats. Oh, the centrist corporatist Democrats, I don't want to endanger them. Let's make sure that leadership sides with them. That is a terrible idea. That is what has led to surrender after surrender and why Republicans win elections even though Democrats have all of the demographics and all of the policy issues on their side. Okay, finally, one more piece here. For Democrats reluctant to even broach the topic, that may mean explicit evidence linking Trump to Russian collusion or obstruction of justice in Mueller's report. Anything less, Bustos and other moderate lawmakers argue, and Democrats risk imperiling their House majority almost as soon as they take control. Do you understand that? So first excuse was, well, we might lose in some of those toss-up states and toss-up districts. Now, it's that poor excuse because as I just told you, the polling indicates they're going to win big. So they're like, oh, yeah, that's true. But once we have the majority, we should make sure that we do nothing with it because it would imperil our next election. There's never enough excuses for the Democrats for inaction. They'll find another one and another one and another one. They keep talking about how they want to keep their powder dry. That is the driest powder in the history of politics. And then they wonder why we get the sense that they might not fight for us.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
It is their intention, even if they win, to wait for Republican approval before they go forward on progressive priorities. Wow, I'm so motivated. This is what a losing strategy looks like. Young Turks. You're right in the middle of this podcast. We got another great segment coming up for you. If you'd like the full show, which is actually 5 segments, go to tytnetwork.com/join. You become a member, you support the show, you support independent media, and you get the whole 2-hour show ad-free every day. Let's go do it now. Back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, Hannah Cranston, Ida Rodriguez. I feel like we should do a power battle drop, but it's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, so just regular.
It's a Tuesday after Christmas. I feel like it's a special day.
It's a special panel.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So great to have you guys here.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully you guys had a good Christmas. Rock and roll. All right.
I had food poisoning. Oh. It was a good Christmas because I did not gain weight on Christmas. I couldn't.
I like how you look on the upside of things.
Always.
Yeah. All right. Let me read a couple tweets here. Ryan C. Hardigan says, well, Churchill was also a horrible racist, so there's that. Because how could we have compared Trump to Churchill? Mm-hmm. And Sarah Elric saying, hi, Cenk. I hope you had a really good Christmas. Keep up the excellent work. But thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. And Anna Hernandez writes in, so Dems are overdramatic to compare Trump to a dictator, but the Republicans are spot on a comparison to Churchill. I think it's more than kissing ass. So, okay. God bless. All right. We have a lot of stories for you guys in the second hour. And as usual, unfortunately, some of them are tragic.
Yeah.
Okay.
First one particularly.
Yes.
All right. Cameron Prescott is a 6-year-old boy who was shot last week during a deputy shootout. Now, this is a picture here of Cameron, and he is most likely the youngest victim of a police shooting in 2017. Hopefully we can throw up the picture soon so that you can see it. But he's a very adorable 6-year-old boy who was tragically shot last week. Now, the shooting took place in Schertz, Texas. Now, the sheriff, Javier Salazar, said that a deputy was responding to a call about a stolen vehicle when he found the suspect, a woman named Amanda Jones, who was wanted on 2 felony warrants. He said the woman appeared to be armed and threatened to shoot the deputy before she fled. All right. So now hours later, she made her way back to a mobile home park. She forced her way into one of the homes. It was Cameron's home, and he was inside with his grandfather and a girl. Now, apparently during the time that she was in the mobile home, she threatened to steal their car. She threatened that she did have a gun before she actually faced the deputies. Now, she went out and she threatened to shoot them and appeared to be holding something resembling a handgun. That's when 4 deputies opened fire and killed her. And unfortunately, one of the deputies' bullets also struck Cameron, and the deputy actually administered first aid but was unable to save his life. Now, the 4 deputies who opened fire are actually placed on administrative leave for 5 days. And this is just a tragic and horrendous story that Cameron was caught up in this. Now, there has been no handgun that was found on site. There was a pipe that was found that resembled, I guess is what they're saying, resembled the handgun during the shooting. But nonetheless, this is just a horrendous tragedy.
One part of the story says, as of Friday, officials had not recovered a weapon.
Right.
I got news for you. They're not going to recover one.
Right.
Believe me, they looked for one right away after they shot and killed not only her but the kid. That trying to find that weapon would have been their number one priority. So there was no weapon. So, look, the result of this is as horrific as it gets. What led up to it is not as horrific as some other stories we've seen, but that is as low a bar as you could possibly have. So then you got people being shot in the back, you got people crawling on their knees, being shot in hotel hallways, etc. In this case, she at least said she had a weapon a couple of times. Now, the first time she said she had a weapon, she didn't, and she never fired it. This time, they never saw a weapon. She at least said it. But most importantly, though, we used to have training in America where cops were really careful. Freeze, you're under arrest, put your hands up, etc., right? And part of the reason some jurisdictions have stopped high-speed chases is because it endangers innocent civilians. Guess what also endangers innocent civilians? A shootout right in the middle of a residential area. Now, if you cared about the community more and you taught the police to care about the community more, they would take a little bit higher percentage chance to make sure that their bullets didn't go into other people's homes. If you teach them that their life is the most important thing there is, and the community's life is a much lower priority, well, it might or might not be a gun. Let's just do a hail of bullets and see what happens. Well, a hail of bullets in this case killed someone with no weapon and a 6-year-old boy. That's why we tell you, do police training where we prioritize the community. And by that, I mean all of our communities, as opposed to at all costs, just protect yourself.
So when you say all communities, that's what immediately goes to my head is that this happened at a trailer park and that people who are of lower income, who live in lower income neighborhoods are more subject to these types of tragedies. And I grew up in one of those neighborhoods, and I know that when the police comes through, you get flat. That's what they say, get on the floor until it passes because you can catch a bullet. But I do think that in this day, when all of the things that are happening and the police constantly stays under fire because of, we keep attacking, the police, and I'm not talking about you, but I'm saying when it comes to a lot of the issues with race, but it's a systemic issue, right? And the police just happens to be, they happen to be the guys executing I get really pissed off. Okay, so the cops are doing their dirt, but because the system is in place, they continue to do their dirt. But the system is working against us. And these cops who don't make a lot of money, are not being properly trained, are going out into these neighborhoods that they don't feel comfortable in, and people die. So I am not anti-police, but I am pro-police. What's the word, Cenk? I want the police to get better.
Accountability.
Well, yeah, accountability, and I think you make a really good point, right? No, I don't think, of course there are some people that are anti-police, but I don't think what we're saying here is anti-police, right? I think what we're saying here is that we want the police force to be better trained, and the police force should be on board with that as well. They shouldn't be put in a situation where 4 deputies are firing at one woman who doesn't even have a gun. You know what I mean? Of course there's going to be a stray bullet that can cause damage. So that's one issue that I think that should have been addressed prior to this sort of tragedy. I think another issue is we need to start being able to recognize guns. You know what I mean? There's so many of these situations where police, assume something is a gun and it's a cigarette pack or it's a hair comb or whatever it may be. This woman was holding a pipe, and I understand that safety comes first and sometimes you're not able to tell what it is. But if she's brandishing a pipe, you should be able to see that that's not a handgun with the way that she's holding it and other sort of mechanisms that come into play. I think the third issue here is their shooting accuracy. You know what I mean? If they're shooting at one woman at a specific target, how was there a stray bullet? How was there a stray bullet that ricocheted and went into the mobile home? And we say that, with the argument for open carry and for having more guns, it's like, oh, if there's like a bad guy, we'll be able to stop him with our gun. We'll be able to. No, even the trained officials in our country cannot even hit at one target.
Yeah, look, it's there. But that's what happens when you have a barrage of bullets. You shouldn't be surprised. That's why you shouldn't do a barrage of bullets. Right. And so, look, that's why I keep emphasizing the training. Is it hard to distinguish a gun from other things? I guess I get it. So, but that's not to me, that's not the issue. I think what the issue is, if you haven't seen a gun, don't shoot, is what I would tell them. Yeah. But that is not what they're being told. If you think there's any chance there's a gun, shoot. I mean, the guy in the hallway, the 26-year-old white guy who was killed in the hallway that was begging for his life. Yeah. He was in shorts and a t-shirt. A rifle had been reported. Turned out it wasn't really a rifle, but there was no rifle, there was no gun. And he went to pull up his shorts as he was crawling on the ground, and they shot him anyway. And in this case, there's no gun. Afterwards, they're like, there was some brown object somewhere nearby. No, you never saw a gun, and that's because you were trained. Don't bother looking for the gun. If you see the gun, it's too late. Just shoot and kill the other person first. I don't want my cops trained that way. Yeah. And Ida's right. Look, yes, the cops are the tip of the spear, so they're getting the most heat. It's the system that's the problem. And by the way, to give cops not credit, but to understand a little bit more, and I've said this a million times on the show, now everyone's got a gun. Yeah. So that's part of why cops are jittery. And to Hannah's point, the right wing tells us, oh, it'll make everyone safer. Do we look safer? No, all the cops are on razor's edge because they think, and rightfully so, that almost every American has a gun. So they're like, oh, I'm not taking any chances. I'm just going to kill people. Yeah. And so now when a 6-year-old dies, we're broken up over it, and we should be. But the real problem is in the system.
Yeah, it shouldn't take a white man, a little boy, a woman to get killed for there to be a call for reform for the police. And that's the issue, because when people say, oh, these black, Mike was a criminal or Trayvon was a criminal, it shouldn't take... And Trayvon wasn't murdered by the cops, but it shouldn't take a white man, a father. This shouldn't even be the conversation. The conversation is that citizens are dying at the hands of law enforcement because there is a deficiency in the system and it needs to be addressed. And everybody should be concerned about it. It shouldn't matter to you only when your group is affected. That's
Bingo.
It.
Yep, absolutely.
Moving on. A 17-year-old neo-Nazi has been charged with murder after murdering his girlfriend's parents once they reported his Hitler-fueled social media posts. Now, this is a picture here of Scott Fricker and his wife, Buckley Kuhn Fricker, who are the victims of this crime that took place in Reston, Virginia. Now, on Sunday night, Kuhn Fricker, the girlfriend's mom, alerted the principal of the Fairfax County private school that her daughter and the boyfriend attend, attaching numerous images of an account that she believes belonged to the boyfriend that had retweeted missives praising Hitler, supporting Nazi book burnings, calling for white revolution, making derogatory comments about Jews, and featuring an illustration of a man hanging from a noose beneath a slur for gay people. Now, in private Twitter messages, the account Kuhn Fricker attributed to the boyfriend responded to a photo of a candy shop that featured a display of a dreidel by writing, "I'm a run in there with my swastika armband right now." Now, Kuhn Fricker wrote that her daughter told her over the summer that the boyfriend was also very good at history, and that her daughter asked, "Did you know that Jews are partly to blame for World War II?" So obviously this alerted the mom and the parents, and so they wanted them to split up, and they actually staged an intervention. Now, after staging this intervention, the family believed their daughter had come to the realization that a breakup was in her best interest. So the mother texted a friend on Thursday night saying that the daughter was going to break up with the boyfriend, and that she had actually texted the boyfriend's mother that the boyfriend, we're not saying his name because he is a minor, was sneaking into our house at night and is an outspoken neo-Nazi. These things render any legal redemption void. Now, around 5 a.m. on Friday morning, Kuhn Fricker and Fricker heard a noise and discovered the teenage boy in their daughter's bedroom. The teen shot and killed the parents before inflicting a wound on himself. Now, he is currently in critical condition. No other family members were harmed, but this is an unbelievable and unspeakable tragedy that is I have no words. I really do have no words for this.
Well, so I hear from time to time from the alt-right, oh, we're just having fun when we do neo-Nazi imagery online, and all the different memes that, oh, it's just fun, it's just funny. We go on all these sites and we just like to rile people up, and we think people are too sensitive, so we like to offend people for fun. And what I've said over and over again is you turn people into neo-Nazis and then you think it's fun and that you're all having a good laugh over it. But it's not funny, and almost, there's about 250 to 300 million guns in the country. So you think some percentage of those neo-Nazis that are trolls online aren't serious? They are. And now these two lovely people died.
Look at the people that were armed in Charlottesville. I mean, that was ridiculous. And I think this story is most upsetting to me, I think, because these parents, all they were doing was the right thing. Yeah. They were trying to protect their daughter from somebody who was spewing this hatred and bigotry and violence. And they said, you know what, we think that you should break up with this boy. And this is what happened. I mean, what else could they have done?
So, and I would say, so people get upset with me sometimes when I say that there's some mental illness issues dealing, because I always get the argument, well, every time it's a white person, it's mental illness, but when it's a person of color, they were just being evil. And I'll say, this young man seemed troubled, because when his girlfriend broke up, his response to breaking up was murder. So these people are preying on your children as a mom. Those people are no different than gangs. Those neo-Nazi groups, those groups it's the same mentality that is looking for somebody who is empty and needs a family and has found a home. And that boy probably has some mental issues, because he killed 2 people because they made him break up with his girlfriend. Like, normal people don't do that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 things at play here, right? I think the neo-Nazi ideologies that came into his life, I think, are obviously a big component, right? And a lot of neo-Nazi ideology perpetuates and talks about violence, right? I think the other issue that comes into play, and you were, kind of reminded me of it when you were talking about it, is toxic masculinity and telling boys that to be strong and to be manly, you have to have a gun and you have to show people and man up and get some balls and whatever it is that the society tells young boys is how they should show their masculinity. And so he took a gun and wanted to show the people that hurt him who was boss or who was the man in the situation. And we see this time and time again, and this is a common reaction, and this is, just a perfect example of domestic violence that was also fueled by neo-Nazism to, combine to create this horrendous tragedy on this poor family.
Yeah. I blame the neo-Nazi alt-right culture online. They encourage it. They encourage it every day. And they think it's funny. Oh, what's the big deal about offending Jews and blacks and Latinos? Ha ha. And it's not funny. It's incredibly dangerous. And you're stoking a certain percentage of the people that are participating in that to do horrific things like this.
Oh, I'm not throwing them a pass. But what I'm saying is that from a parental standpoint, these are the people he's 17. They're preying on these young, impressionable minds with this toxic stuff, and these are the results of it. And I think that you have to watch your kids, because the internet is real, and I don't think people really understand. The internet is the biggest babysitter right now, and I don't think people understand what's out there feeding these kids. I do blame, neo-Nazi groups, and I'm a victim of dealing with the oppression that comes with white supremacy in America daily as a woman of color. So I'm always combating it, and people call me angry for it all the time. But I think that, and also these 2 people lost their lives because they stood up against racism and this ideology. And I think that it's so sad. But to the people who say that there are no people out there who stand up to this stuff, no white people, look at these white people who lost their lives.
Yeah, and they're in in a huge way, American heroes, and I think that the people that encourage this stuff are culpable. Look, BuzzFeed did a giant expose on how Milo did his big thesis for the alt-right, and he asked a bunch of neo-Nazis for input into it. It was so bad that Robert Mercer, the big benefactor of Breitbart, even had to pretend to pull his funding. He didn't. He just handed it off to his daughters, right? But these are the guys that they asked for guidance from. And look at what the results are. I mean, so the courage of this family was wonderful and laudatory, but there's monsters among us.
Oh, yeah.
And they're encouraging violence and hatred day in and day out. And this is one of the tragic results of it. Man, sorry, it's a sad day in news. It really is. Unfortunately, these days we have too many of them. All right, when we come back, we got another story about abortion rights. It's now they're under attack by the so-called moderate in the Republican Party, but a little lighter story. And I'm going to be a little bah humbug about, but a liberal sends poo to somebody in Trump's cabinet. Is it the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? We'll discuss.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. Thanks for watching or listening to this free version of the Young Turks podcast. You know that the full show is at tytnetwork.com/join. If you become a member, you get the full show ad-free. We love you for watching or listening. Either way, there's going to be a new free podcast tomorrow. You can keep on doing that. But if you want to get the full show ad-free, tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.